All right, welcome back. This is Bill Quinn. I am delighted once again to welcome Sheila Holm. Sheila, thank you for making time. It is an exciting and maybe bewildering day. What do you say?
I think it's pretty awesome. I think we're right on top of the news. Here we go.
All right, all right. So, literally, just in the last few hours, something has happened that you reported on, and now many people are picking it up. Go ahead and take us through what you've seen. I'm going to pull up this page from your Twitter feed. There we go.
Right away this morning, there was an announcement that Pete Hegseth is going to be calling in the admirals and generals from all over the world, and they all have to come and meet together next week. So it's going to be an exciting week.
It certainly will. This is what many people are calling unprecedented. It's really unusual to pull people out of their normal duties, even if they're in some sort of an action, a conflict somewhere. These officials are being pulled. My number is supposed to be close to 800 people are coming in for this meeting called for Quantico, Virginia, next week. I've never heard of anything like this, and many others are reporting the same thing. Have you ever heard of this in the past?
Well, they've been spreading our guys further and further around the world all the time. And I think this is going to be exciting because there was a military accountability letter that was put together and key people signed it. And then more people were involved in a Twitter Spaces live that night. This was on January 1 of 24. And when they did this, they said, we'll answer questions. I don't know. You guys, you want to come on for a half hour and ask questions? We'll answer your questions. And so a whole bunch of us signed up and the questions went on for more than 3 hours. At 3 hours, I had to sign off.
Wow.
But I don't know if we have time to review this with everything else we want to do today. But guys, this is the most powerful letter, and you can see it on my Twitter page. If you are not able to go there, we're going to share the link, I think, with Congress, and you can go right on the Congress homepage and go for this document because this is on congress.gov also. And if you just type in military accountability letter, you're going to find this link. And just leave spaces. I'm not saying military accountability letter like it's a website title anymore. They used to have a website and we came on and signed. But if you just type the words military and then accountability and then letter, this comes up. And you can go right to this link and you'll see the letter and be able to read it. And then it's got 11 pages of signatures. And there are top names on there that you're probably all going to know one or two or three of those names because they've become quite involved in what we're doing to clean everything up.
So let's make sure people understand what this is. So right after you posted the announcement of Hegseth's meeting, you said a military accountability letter to follow. Generally, this letter now is more than a year old. This was done in January 2024, yes?
Now, yes, but the reason why I sent it out, they started the process that day. And so many in the military were like, they were so upset. And they said, why didn't you tell us? We would want to sign this. They said, we couldn't let it get it out. This letter is so intense in the wording as to exactly what's happening because these people have operated against our Constitution. And then they list several generals and admirals and rear admirals. And I mean, all these people that are listed are the initial people that they're going to take through the military tribunals. They were that upset as to what they were doing to the military. And so all of this was done. And that's why that very night, January 1 of 24, and it came out at 4 a.m., just like the Georgia Guidestones going down at 4 a.m. Because that obliterates the structure of the evil plan against us, because that's their number for structure. So we obliterate their structure by us coming against it exactly at that time. This came out exactly at 4 a.m. on 1/1 of 2024. So I'm the one that added this letter today because this is what it's been building towards, is that we have to clean up what is wrong. And if you're in the military and you're not following the Constitution, it's the same as the FBI agents. We talked about Stephen Friend on our last interview with the FBI. We showed his book, True Blue. He was a whistleblower for the FBI. And the reason why he did that, because everybody that wasn't following the Constitution were getting the raises and promotions. But the guys in the FBI who follow the Constitution and honor all rights of the legal citizens in America, they were just being bypassed. And so he was one of the whistleblowers, wrote a book on all of this. And now Kash Patel, and I don't remember the date, but it's a few weeks ago now, he absolutely reinstated him and gave him all back pay as to what they had done to him, because they let the whistleblowers go off on suspension with no money.
Right. So just to make sure people understand the context of the letter, it sets forth a statement that's signed by dozens and dozens of military officials, many quite high ranking, that set forth that a number of the military leaders have broken the law in some ways and violated the Constitution in some ways, and essentially sets forth the notion that we need military accountability. So one of the reasons I think that you brought this forward is it possible that whatever's going on this current week or this coming week is perhaps the beginning of accountability for some of these individuals? Do you have a sense yet, or is it too early?
Well, they're not letting them know what the meeting is going to be about. And they're not even letting them know why they're calling them all in together in the same meeting in the same location next week. And I think that's amazing, because the problem we've seen all the way along is leaks. I think the first thing that has happened in our government for the president was the trip of the B-2s going all those hours. Those guys were in those planes the whole time, all the way over, took care of the mission over in Iran, and came back, and nobody leaked it.
That's a good point. And he made a comment about that, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So there's also a tweet that people are saying that the president brought out. Here we go.
They caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
May I ask you about that, Mr. President? Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper. The whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room. Right here, this was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they... Look, he's guilty. It's not a question. You know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill. Hillary Clinton and her group, the Democrats, spent $12 million to Christopher Steele to write up a report that was a total fake report. Took 2 years to figure that out, but it came out that it was a total fake report. It was made up fiction. And they used that. Now, the one thing they weren't able to do was to, and probably the only thing I respect about the press in years is the press refused to write it before the election. They refused to put it in. The Steele report was a disaster. All lies, all fabrication, all admitted, and admitted fraud. She paid $12 million, and the Democrats, for that report to a wise guy named Christopher Steele. He wrote a phony report, and they wanted to get that report in before the election. And I'll tell you what, I talk about all the time, the fake news, how bad it is, but in this case, they wouldn't do it. They saw it, they read it, and they said, we don't believe it. And it was only after, substantially, like a month and a half after the election, that it got printed, and it was a big wisp. It was just like a bang of nothing, because the election had ended. If that report had gotten published by the New York Times or somebody, and I respect the Times for maybe only this, because they're crooked as you can be. They're a terrible paper, a crooked, corrupt paper. But for this one moment, they said, this is bullshit, we can't put this in. And neither could any other paper. Wall Street Journal's a lousy paper, very, very dishonest paper. As you see, I'm suing them for a lot of money because they do things very badly. It's got a nice name, but it's really, in my opinion, it's a terrible paper. And it can be corrupt. But just so you know, they didn't take the Steele report. It was the dossier. Remember the famous dossier? I called it the fake news dossier. The news wouldn't publish it. And I'm amazed. They had 2.5 months. It was finished. 2.5 months. That was supposed to be what was going to happen. And it got published a couple of months after the election. And frankly, nobody cared too much about it. But that was a big thing. No, we caught Hillary Clinton. We caught Barack Hussein Obama. They're the ones. And then you have many, many people under them. Susan Rice. They're all there. The names are all there. And I guess they figured they're going to put this in classified information and nobody will ever see it again, but it doesn't work that way. And it's the most unbelievable thing I think I've ever read. So you ought to take a look at that and stop talking about nonsense, because this is big stuff. Never has a thing like this happened in the history of our country. And by the way, it morphed into the 2020 race. And the 2020 race was rigged, and it was a rigged election. And because it was rigged, we have millions of people in our country. We had inflation. We solved the inflation problem. But millions and millions of people came into our country because of that. And people that shouldn't have been, people from gangs and from jails and from mental institutions, people that we don't want in our country, people that we're getting out, dangerous people. 11,888 murderers, many of them 50%, more than 50%, murdered more than one person. I hate to say this with such a distinguished guest, but you know, they asked me a question. I got to answer the question. No, Barack Hussein Obama is the ringleader. Hillary Clinton was right there with him, and so was Sleepy Joe Biden, and so were the rest of them. Comey, Clapper, the whole group. And they tried to rig an election, and they got caught. And then they did rig the election in 2020. And then because I knew I won that election by a lot, I did it a third time, and I won in a landslide. Every swing state won the popular vote. But I won that all the same way in 2020. And look at the damage that was caused.